Yoga can be a great tool for preventing, reducing, and even eliminating lower back pain. However, if you practice certain poses in the wrong way, then you could be contributing to back pain instead. So in this video, I'm going to share with you a great tip for incorporating into your yoga practice that will help you prevent lower back pain. It is a tip about how to twist properly. And then I will share a list of poses that can be contributing to your lower back pain and that you should avoid, as well as show you alternatives that you can do instead and still gain the same benefits without harming your lower back. Let's get right into it. So stand in Tadasana, but with your feet parallel, feet right under the hips. Stand up tall, palms facing the front of the mat. And tuck that tailbone in, engage your core, and from here, lift your right arm out in front of you and your left arm behind you, and now twist to the left. You'll see that naturally, the left hip goes back and the right hip goes forward. Now, we don't want that to happen. Instead, pull your left hip forward and push that right hip back so that your hips stay in one straight line, keeping the hips square. You will notice that your core has to engage more and you will feel the twist more powerfully. Now, this is how you twist properly without unaligning the hips, so that the twist is coming from above the belly button. It's first extension of the spine and then twist. So whenever you're in a twisting pose, always check in that your hips are square so that you are not straining the lower back. For example, if we come into a twisted chair, so first come into chair, weight in your heels, bring your hands together in prayer, and lock your right elbow over your left knee, bringing the hands to your chest, extending through your back. And here, you want to keep your knees aligned, and that way you'll be sure that your hips are square. Now, moving on to poses that you should avoid and what poses to practice instead. First of all, in Uttasana forward fold, you certainly want to avoid folding like this from the lumbar spine without bending the knees. Instead, bend your knees as much as you need so that your belly is resting on your thighs and you are folding from your hips and not from the lumbar spine, lower back. Remember, legs strong and upper body relaxed. Next, you definitely want to avoid upward facing dog. This pose definitely puts strain on the lower back. Instead, you can do the classical cobra. So bringing the hands by your ribs, underneath your elbows, and peeling up using the muscles in your upper back. Your lower body is relaxed and all 10 toes pressing into the mat. Next, you want to avoid bow pose. Bow pose is where we're supine and we grab on to our heels and then lift up the legs and upper body. This is a powerful pose and can definitely cause some lower back issues. However, instead, you can do locust. So for this pose, you're also supine, hands, arms by your sides, toes, big toes touching, and you just lift up your lower body and your chest off the mat. This is a great pose for strengthening the entire back body, including the lower back. And if your lower back is strong, it will be less prone to pain. Next, Warrior One. Warrior One, where our stance is a bit less wide than Warrior Two, and the back foot is at 45 degrees and front knee over the ankle. you should avoid this pose as well, because it's as if we're trying to square off the hips to look at the front of the mat, but for most people this is not possible. And in doing so, we are putting strain on our lower backs. So instead, you can practice crescent lunge or high lunge. Coming onto the ball of your back foot, widening the stance a bit, and make sure you keep that tailbone tucked in, avoiding curvature in the lower spine, so you can slightly bend the back leg as well. Next, you want to avoid twisted crescent lunge. Again, it is hard for most people to square out the hips in this twist. So instead, you can practice any other twist that is more gentle on the lower back and will not cause it any harm. For example, supine twist with the knees at 45, with the legs at 90 degrees angle, and then just dropping the hips to one side. This is a nice gentle twist where gravity is doing the work. Next, you want to avoid boat pose. This pose can also strain the lower back. So instead of practicing boat pose, there are so many other ways that you can be strengthening the core. And actually, boat pose is not one of the best ones for doing so. It's actually focuses more on the groin area. So instead, you can practice plank with the knees down, forearm plank, side plank, and yeah, just play around with it here. These are all great core strengthening exercises that will strengthen the lower back instead of harming it. Next, you want to avoid camel pose. Again, a pose that is not recommended for those with delicate lower backs. Instead, I recommend doing a supported fish pose. So you take a block here and place it underneath your shoulder blades, and then just relax your head on the mat, bring your arms to your sides, and let your upper body and chest open. And last but not least, please avoid wheel pose if you have any lower back issues. So wheel pose is where we lift up here into a full wheel. Not good for the lower back. Instead, you can do bridge pose. However, you also need to be careful with this one. So to do bridge pose without straining the lower back, you want to press into the heels, lift up the hips. Make sure your chin is away from the chest. And if you feel any strain in the lower back, do come out of it and opt for a child's pose instead. And I'd like to share one more tip before I let you go. It is good to know that lower back pain can actually be caused by tight hamstrings, glutes, and hips. These can all be contributing to your lower back pain, so it is very important to keep your hamstrings, glutes, and hips flexible and mobile. For that, I do recommend checking out this class over here for happy hips and hamstrings, or you can check out this class for lower back pain, which focuses a lot on stretching the hips and glutes. Just to recap, remember how to twist properly by keeping the hips square and twisting from above the navel. Always practice that exercise we did in the beginning. Avoid doing the poses that were listed throughout this video and practice the other poses instead, which will not harm your lower back. And keep those hips, glutes, and hamstrings happy. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And please share it with a friend or in your stories so that people can see this video, because you never know who could be suffering from lower back pain and needs to hear these tips. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you an amazing rest of your day. See you soon.